I think, first of all, that there's an unwritten law of the universe, that says that all people, no matter who they are, have an unalienable right to know who they are and why they are who they are, so that not only are they allowed or obligated to know the narrative history of their country for real and not just glory tales and myths, but they should be taught excellence in practical political power, because in this country, sooner or later, they will be asked to run this country. And if they're not excellent at running it, comprehending what it is or how to maintain it, they'll lose. And that will be the end of the country. Mostly, the things that people are asked to do, or those things that are left undone, are things that connect you at most to your neighborhood, to your city. But nothing remains of those iconic activities that connected us directly to the nation. I grew up after World War II, and we were still having paper drives and rubber drives, and we did things that automatically connected us directly to the nation. And what you have to find are expressions of what we call American ideas, ideas of the Enlightenment, of common sense and reason, and the goal of clarity of thought, so that you know, before you graduate high school, that you own this country and you can see a flim-flam artist from a mile away. And when someone breaks the law, especially those that are important laws, that no matter who they are or what office they hold or what institution they represent, the banks, the schools, the presidency, the Congress, they must be held accountable, as the average ordinary citizen is, and ordinary citizens are held accountable, and accountable. And presidents, congressmen, justices of the court, and heads of corporations are without any fear that anyone will hold their feet to the fire. There's a story about the guy who wrote the script, Mr. Holland's Opus, who was in a traffic jam in L.A., and he was all sweaty and upset and crazy about the traffic jam, and he asked, "What's going on?" And someone said, "Oh, there are people up there striking with placards." "Who?" he said. "Teachers," they said. And he immediately lost all of his anger, turned his car around, went home, and wrote the script to Mr. Holland's Opus in 1 week, because he remembered that there were teachers who had changed and improved and enlarged his life. And they, of all people, had a right to hold up a placard and strike and say, "Don't throw those bullets my way," which we have a habit of doing. The secret of public education that they'll never tell you is they know that, for the most part, you're not going to be using geology, but you will have to know how to do something you don't like for at least an hour and a half every day, so that homework is more important than the subject, and that thinking with common sense, with logic and clarity, is far more important than knowing the Mercator map or geography or calculus. You have to know how to think clearly, because you're asked in our unique form of government, the likes of which had never, ever, ever existed before, you're asked to participate in more power and understand more of real power in the world than any other system. It's really the greatest tip of the hat to mankind that anyone has ever come up with. Patience. I don't know how to really answer that. I know that intelligent is better than stupid. And that's, in aggregate, what I learned in school. I know that there are secret, splendid pleasures, like learning something for its own sake, not for a test. And I can remember the day that happened to me. And it was like discovering the new world. It was like discovering a continent of pleasure that I knew would always be with me, that I wasn't learning just to pass out of school. I was learning, and that process gave me a kind of sense of pleasure and contentedness and eagerness that is unique. Not really from the beginning. I had started reading mythology. I was in love with Greek mythology. And mythology, especially Greek mythology, is really the most realistic of all gods to worship, because they have all the foibles of mankind, and that led me directly into history. If I had to pick, I would say that at some time earlier in my life, I wanted to teach a class in maligned heroes, people who had bad reps and who didn't deserve them, like Aaron Burr and Richard III and, to a certain extent, Huey Long. I wanted to teach how history was as varied and as complex and irrational and rational and beautiful in its irrationality, in that sense, as all people are.